Hey folks, this is Mary. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to have some fountain pen story time. This is a Keiko fountain pen case, or pen case, that I got off of Amazon. It holds 20 pens, and right now I am just filling it, I'm filling half of it with my vintage pen collection. And I imagine at some point I will be adding to this collection. I don't think I'll be getting more than 20 vintage pens. My modern pen collection is much, much larger. But I think this pen case will be plenty to hold my vintage pens. All right, so let me see. How did I get started with vintage pens? I was watching videos by Adventure Denali, as I think many of us have been, and she just waxes so poetically about her vintage fountain pens that I decided that I wanted to try to look into some. And unfortunately, most of the pens that I found were outrageously expensive. Just more money than I could justify putting into any pen, a vintage pen, a modern pen, whatever. I just couldn't see myself spending that much money on it. Oh, I think I'm shaking the camera terribly. Excuse me. I had to get a sip of tea. But I kept looking, and I found a website called Tim's Vintage Pens. And I will put a link to his website below in the comments. Not the comments, the description. You know what I mean. I just found his website on a random Google search. And he has a nice variety of pens. He has some newer ones, some quite old ones. He even has, my favorite, a bargain section. So, of course, the bargain section immediately caught my eye. And I started looking at his bargain pens, and I decided that I wanted to get some because they were in a reasonable price range. So, and when I say a reasonable price range, I mean they were under like $50. He has some in like the $30 range. So if you're looking for a more reasonably priced vintage pen, his bargain section is the place to go. So I was looking at his website just about a year ago, last March, just about the time that the quarantine was starting to happen. And I got in communication with him, and I decided to order a couple of pens. Now, there was one pen that I saw on the website that immediately caught my eye. I fell in love with it. I had to have it, but it wasn't a brand name I had ever heard of before. So I felt like the pens that I should start with were well-known pen brands. So I started with a Parker and a Waterman. So I will show you these a little bit more up close. This is a Parker 45, and it has a gold nib. And I think this is called a partially hooded nib, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see if I can get my lighting to cooperate. So it has a very unique looking nib, and this is a medium. He currently has a bunch of different sizes on his site, but I got a medium. Most of the ones that he has are fine or extra fine, I believe, but it's black. And this is, I think this is what they call an aerometric filler. It's one of those little squeeze converters like they have on, sometimes you get these on a Pilot Metropolitan. It has that little squeeze converter, and it works fine. It feels fine. So this is probably closest to the modern pens that I've been used to using. And it's a medium, but it's a very wet medium, a very broad medium. And it just has a little push-on cap, and it has the well-known Parker Arrow clip. And the next pen that I purchased, I bought both of these two pens at the same time. This is a Waterman Crusader, and this one also has a snap cap. And this one is a lever filler. Oh, I forgot to tell you. I have some notes here. So the Parker is, it's a medium nib. It's from the 1960s. It's a gold nib. This is also a gold nib. And this is a Waterman Crusader from the late 40s, and it's a lever filler. So it's quite a bit older than my Parker pen. And if you're familiar with lever fill pens, there's a latex sac inside of the pen, like a kind of like a little balloon. and you pull this lever. I can't remember if there's ink in this pen or not. I don't dare pull the lever because who knows what might come out. But there's just this little lever here. And you just get your fingernail under there and you pull up on the lever and it squeezes the little balloon inside and ejects the ink. And then after the ink is ejected, it'll, you know, suck back up. So, you know, you pull the lever to empty it out, and then when you push the lever back in, it sucks water, ink, whatever, back in. And this one writes with a very fine line, but it's very wet. It's a very wet fine. I don't know if you could see that nib very well. Let's see. Oh, for some sunlight. That is just not a very good close-up of the nib. But it does say Waterman on it, and it has the patent number, and it says 14K. This is a Waterman Ideal nib. All right. So I purchased those two pens, and I was very happy with them. I liked them, but I didn't love them as much as the pen that was still on Tim's site. So I just waited on pins and needles until my next payday when I could order the next pen. And it was this one. This is an Eagle, which is a brand that I've never heard of. But according to Tim, this company, the Eagle Pen Company, is related to the Eagle Pencil Company, if you're familiar with those. But I just think this pen is stunning. And I don't know if you'll be able to see the colors very well in the light, but it's kind of a marbled green. And it has these lines that run up and down the pen. And sometimes the lines are silver, and sometimes the lines are kind of a coppery red. So I don't know if the lines have tarnished over time or if they're supposed to be different colors. But I think it is just stunning. I was mesmerized by this pen the first time I saw it. And it was so silly that I didn't buy it when I saw it because I felt like I had to buy an appropriate vintage pen. So I bought a Parker and a Waterman. And they're fine, they're nice pens, but oh, this pen has my heart. And I think it's so interesting, if you can see the end of the pen here. Can I get my phone to focus here? If you look at the celluloid, oh, there it goes again. Come on now, let's focus. There we go. If you look at the celluloid, you can kind of see where it was squeezed, where it was extruded. Isn't that crazy? I love that. And it's got kind of a little pointed end on it. And then it's got the same little pointed end on this side. I think it is just the cutest pen. And on the clip it says Eagle. Now, Tim is a wonderful font of information, and if you ask him for more information about your pens, he will just tell you everything you could ever hope to know. So I did ask him for more information about this pen, and I just found out so many wonderful things. So I don't know if we can focus on this nib or not, but the nib actually says a Penco. E-Penco. So apparently, I guess in the 30s, this pen is from the 30s. And somewhere during that time, Eagle kind of changed over, was bought out by a Penco. And these are what are considered third-tier pens. So these are not high-end pens like the Waterman. And, gosh, who's a second-tier pen? I don't know, maybe Wall? But these were definitely not the fancy pens. This was kind of a knockaround pen. But oh my goodness, have you ever seen a knockaround pen? It's so gorgeous. It has an ink window, which I absolutely adore. I think it is just a miracle that a pen from the 1930s has an ink window in it. Now, I know this one is empty, so I'm going to flip the lever up for you. So it's got the little sack inside of it, and you flip the lever up, and that squeezes the sack inside and ejects the ink. This guy is having a little trouble. I was taking him to work and writing with him because I love this pen so much. But I set my arm down in a puddle of blue ink. And the only pen that I had this particular blue in, a Waterman Serenity Blue, was this little eagle. So I talked to Tim about it, and he said that the sack might have failed. So I need to send it back to Tim for repair, but oh, I hate to let go of it because it's so beautiful. But I have to send it back for repair so I can start using it again. But it's got this cool little band. It's almost like a Greek key, but not quite. I think they're like little T's that are upside down and right side up. Oh, it's just beautiful. I could just stare at that pen all day, and sometimes I do find myself memorized by it. I love it so much. Oh, but I was thinking it went from Eagle to Epenco, and I guess the Epenco, Eagle Penco, I don't know. I don't know what happened back then, but it was during the Depression, and, you know, a lot of businesses failed back then, so who knows what happened. Oh, need some tea. Okay, so this little guy I bought at the same time as I bought the Eagle. For some reason, I seem to buy my pens in twos. I don't know why that is, but that's just what I've been doing. So this is a Shaffer Lifetime Balance. And this has the white dot. And if you're familiar with Shaffer pens, those are generally higher end pens, better quality pens, because they have the lifetime Shaffer guarantee, if I'm not mistaken. So he is just the cutest little thing you have ever seen in your life. And it does say Shaffer on the clip. This is also a lever filler. And he has a pretty little nib. If we can focus on that. Let's see. Ooh. Something going on with the nib there. I don't know what that is on the nib. But it says Shaffer Lifetime on it. And I love the little heart-shaped breathing hole. A lot of pens have that on there. And this is also a lever filler. And it is just a teeny tiny little pen. But in the details about the pen that Tim sent me, he said that this was a small pen, but it was not a lady's pen, because ladies' pens are usually slimmer. So this was more likely a man's pocket pen, but it's a higher end Shaffer, or at the time it was sold, it was a higher end Shaffer. And I just think it is cute as bugs here. I love it. Next up is a very special pen that I was quite excited to get. Oh, did I say this pen was from 1930? This is from the 30s, and this one is from 1930. And this one is a Waterman 0552.5V. And this is from the 20s. And it is made of black hard rubber with a gold overlay. And I've been trying to figure out what the pattern is. I thought it was a pansy overlay, but now I don't think it is. But she's an old lady. She's showing her age, but I still think she's beautiful. She's a little tarnished and a little dinged up, but I don't love her any less. It's a lady's ring top, which means that it's a lady's pen intended to be worn around the neck. And it's also a lever filler. And this lever is very interesting because you flip it up to use it, and then it kind of stays popped out there until you're done filling or cleaning or whatever. And then when you're done, you just push it back into place, which I thought was kind of a neat feature. So let's take a look at the nib. This is a Waterman number 2 nib. So it is very tiny, a tiny nib for a tiny pen. And it is a semi-flex nib. And I've had some fun playing around with it, but I'm definitely not good at the flex nib writing yet. My goodness, can we see that? Let's see if we can focus a little bit better. There we go. Yep, so Waterman number 2 with the little heart-shaped breathing hole. So pretty. This is just a precious little pen. I just love it. And it's 100 years old. Oh, and you can see on the end of it here. Let's see if I can get the camera to focus. It does say 0552.5V. So it's just a teeny little pocket pen for a lovely little lady. So nice. And then I've been talking with Tim about pens, and he really likes the Esterbrook pens. And lots of people have talked about how great vintage Esterbrooks are. So I finally decided to get one, and he gave me 2 nibs. Oh, this is an Esterbrook J, and the nib that's on it is a 2556 fine. And the 2000 line nibs are untipped steel nibs. So we're used to modern pens that have a little ball of tipping material on them. But these 2000 series Esterbrook nibs don't have any tipping material. There we are, 2556. So let's see if we can see the nib. Or the underside of the nib, I should say. So this is just the steel of the nib, and there's no tipping material. And Tim was explaining this to me. He said without the tipping material, which is generally very hard, that the pens write a bit softer. And because they're soft, they kind of conform to your writing a little bit better. So with steady use, the pen kind of molds to the way you write, which I think is pretty cool. And I got the 2556, and he also sent me another nib, and this is a 2550 extra fine. And I haven't used this one yet. Let me see if I can get it out of the bag. Ooh, I should have done this before I got on camera. Let's see. And he said this is in the original box, and it didn't look like it had ever been used. So I am the first owner and user of this little nib. So cute. So I've heard great things about Esterbrook nibs and how they are changeable. And now I have some nibs with my Esterbrooks that I can change. So that's exciting. All right. Now those are all the ones that I have purchased from Tim's Vintage Pens. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pens I've purchased from him. This pen you might recognize because I won this in a drawing from Troy LaPlante, and I'll link his channel below. There was a little bit of a mix-up. I was supposed to get a Waterman CC pen, but I ended up getting this Esterbrook. And again, Troy said Esterbrooks are wonderful pens and I really enjoy it. And this one has a 2638 nib, which is a little bit broader than the one on this pen. Ooh, are we focusing? No, we're not focusing. Let's see. There we go. So again, the 2000 line is the untipped line of Esterbrook nibs. Although that one looks kind of like he's got some tipping on there. Let's see. I don't know. Maybe not. But I would like to explore some different Esterbrook nibs and see what they're like. Ooh, I'm sorry, my camera's just not focusing very well tonight. But I ordered these 2 pens just before I won this one. So I got 2 pens in the mail pretty soon after each other. So I thought that was funny. And then since then, I haven't bought any other pens from Tim's site, but I've been looking at pens online, and I found these 2. Again, buying pens in 2s, I don't know why I do that. But there was a seller on Facebook that had these 2 pens, and I absolutely could not resist. This one, I was so delighted to find, is another Eagle. And it was blue, so I had to get it because I love blue. But this material is so amazing. Let me see if I can turn it so you guys can see it but it's blue, but sometimes it looks black, and sometimes it's this icy white. I don't know if it's going to show up on the camera very well, but you know how they talk about modern pens having chatoyance? This pen has chatoyance. This little 1930s third tier bargain Depression era pen is probably the most gorgeous pen I have ever seen in my life, except maybe for this guy over here. his brother from another mother. These Eagle pens are just stunning. And I know you guys can't see that very well, but again, I am just mesmerized by this pen. It is so beautiful. And it looks really dark on the camera, but in person, again, it is that swirling blue that is so gorgeous. You just can't imagine. Anyway, so this one was an Eagle pen with an Apenco nib, and this is an Eagle pen with an Eagle nib. It's also a lever filler, and it does not have the ink window that this one has, and the nib is much smaller and plainer, which I guess is, you know, part of its selling point. It was a small bargain pen. Oh, my phone is not gonna, it's not gonna focus. Come on, honey, there we go. So it just says Eagle in a very plain little breather hole. Pretty plain little nib and the feed. And I've noticed a lot of the vintage nibs have this kind of spoon-shaped feed. I think that was kind of a trademark of Waterman feeds, but obviously this is not a Waterman pen, but they just copied that Waterman style feed. So very interesting. But let's compare this Eagle with this Eagle. Let's see. See if I can get these guys lined up here. Can we see that? Yeah. So the Apenco nib is much bigger, and it looks much fancier with that dual color. It's beautiful. And the Eagle nib is much smaller and plainer. And then of course the green Eagle has that ink window, and the blue one does not. But they're both lever fillers, and kind of a similar swirling color pattern. But really, the materials that they used back then on these vintage pens is just stunning. So beautiful. And I don't know. Modern pens are pretty, but they just don't look like these. Oh my goodness. I'm in love. Oh, and I forgot to mention, this one does not work. I don't know anything about restoring pens. I know very little about vintage pens anyway, just what I've learned playing with these guys. But his little lever doesn't work properly. There's just no resistance there, so I don't know if the lever is broken or maybe the sack inside is missing. I'm afraid to open it up and look. So I need to throw myself on Tim's mercy and ask if he could please take a look at this pen. I just love it so much. And then this one is one that I've been hoping to find. This is, I believe, a Shaffer oversized balance. And of course, the reason I've been interested in this pen is because of Miss Adventure Denali. And she said that her first vintage pen was a Shaffer oversized balance, and she loved it so much. And I have to admit, this pen is a looker. It's like a tuxedo. Tuxedos they're kind of plain when you think about them, but they're so stylish anyway, it doesn't matter. And I think this pen is just gorgeous. And again, this is a white dot Shaffer, so it has that lifetime balance, but I don't honestly think that those lifetime guarantees are still in effect at this point, which is okay with me. But whenever I look for Shaffers, I always look for the white dot. And he's got some kind of ink window going on here. I'm not sure what this is about. Again, I've rinsed it out. That's about all I've done with it. So I'm not sure what that is. I don't know if it's dirty, if it's supposed to be that color, or what. There might be some old ink in there. So yeah, he needs a little love. And again, I need to throw myself on Tim's mercy so he can help me out with these pens. But they are wonderful. I've had the best time exploring vintage pens, and it's all thanks to Mr. Tim. And I suppose I should say that this video is not sponsored by Tim in any way, and I have purchased all of these pens with my own money, except this one, which I won. So I just gush about Tim's vintage pens because I've had such great experiences there, and he's so knowledgeable and so friendly and so helpful. And I highly recommend him. He just put up his spring offerings. He does a quarterly update and he puts out new pens. And yes, I have already ordered some pens from Mr. Tim. So we will start filling in the other side of this case soon. But they're beautiful and they're a lot of fun. So I hope you enjoyed talking about my collection with me. And I will see you guys again soon. And if you have a vintage pen, or if you don't have a vintage pen, I would love it if you would share your thoughts on vintage pens in the comments. Is it just me that loves these guys, or are others of you out there interested in them as well? I would love to know. So until next time, take care, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.